there is strong. Then there is MTI Strong.
Hello members, I'm Tom Morrison. Welcome to another edition of MTI TV. As we look out into the future, wouldn't it be great if you could predict what is coming at you from the unknown? There are so many factors that drive the economy, it's virtually impossible for you as a business owner to try and do that all on your own. A couple of years ago, MTI took on a research membership with the Manufacturers Alliance of Productivity and Innovation, a broad-based group of leading economists who study the 27 industry sectors in manufacturing that MTI members service and heat treating, as well as other factors in the economy. Through MTI's research membership, members have access to the vast array of economic reports by MAPI to help you make informed business decisions about the future. Our goal is to make the unknown a lot more clear to each of you as business owners. Today we have with us Cliff Waldmann, one of MAPI's senior economists, to share his thoughts on the developments of the fourth quarter of 2014 leading into 2015. Cliff, welcome to MTI TV.
Thank you very much.
Cliff, you have spoken at several of MTI's regional and national meetings, and I know our program committee has invited you back to our April 2015 spring meeting. We don't want you to take away the thunder of your session in April, but share with us what is currently going on in the North American economy and how you feel it will end up in 2014.
Well, after a long and difficult and weak recovery following the difficult crisis of 2008 and 2009, it looks as if the U.S. economy is finally starting to strengthen a bit toward normality, get back to its old self. The best news that sort of circles that assessment is that we are finally starting to see an acceleration in job growth. It's been we've had consistent job growth, but it's been frustratingly slow. Now it's starting to accelerate, and that is a major kickstart to what has been a moribund recovery. So it's not quite, its historic norms. Following the less deep recessions of the modern era, going back to the 1970s, we've had much stronger growth in the wake of the downturn, but we are definitely seeing a strengthening. Canada and Mexico, while they made positive turns, partially due to their trading relationship with the United States, are weaker. They're being helped by somewhat of an upswing in U.S. activity, but we are still seeing sluggishness at the moment in both Canada and Mexico.
In looking at world demand as it relates to manufacturing in North America, what do you feel are some of the industry sectors where growth is expected in 2015?
Well, I think you're going to see general growth, but it's going to be very muted growth. While the U.S. is doing better, it's definitely starting to get its complexion back, its pre-crisis complexion back. The world isn't, and in fact, almost outside of the United States, almost nothing is going completely right economically in the world. We have a eurozone that is either close to or falling into yet another recession. China continues to slow. Japan has been in a recession. Brazil has been in something of a recession. India has the hope of a new leadership there, but they're trying to climb out of. So the world is a difficult place for demand these days. I would say that while developing economies are going to continue to try to build their manufacturing sectors, and that should at least keep U.S. machinery exports, which have been a fairly good competitive point for the United States, at least seeing moderate growth. Air travel is really booming, so aerospace is probably going to be a good sector as well. The rest of them, in terms of the world, they'll stay positive, but it's muted because at the moment, and for an uncertain period of time, we are still dealing with a very difficult economic climate outside of the United States.
Cliff, as you know, our industry is capital intensive and big projects require big investment. Are there any surprises MTI members should be paying attention to help them feel good or not so good about making capital investments for 2015?
Well, it's interesting you should ask it in that way. Capital spending in the United States has been one of the lack of capital spending, weakness and uncertainty and volatility in capital spending is one thing that has really held us back in terms of a full recovery. And in fact, capital spending in the United States has been weak, historically weak, since about 2000, and you see weak capital spending around the world. I think one of the things that is really something that people who are business decision makers who have to make decisions on whether to go ahead with large capital investments is the world economy. That is probably the biggest uncertainty, because even if you are just playing in North American markets, you are very much affected the world. If you sell into Canada, China matters, because in fact the world matters, because Canada has a trading relationship with China, and it is a commodities exporter. Mexico certainly has a strong relationship with the United States, but because the United States is affected by the Eurozone and Japan, the Eurozone and China. Mexico is affected by the world. So these linkages in the growing integration of global economic activity means that even if you're just a business decision maker in North America, you have to watch the world, and the world outside of the U.S. is the biggest uncertainty right now for anybody who has to make large decisions on large capital investment.
How much with what is going on in other countries will impact the North American economy?
Yeah, a lot, quite a bit. The channels are analysts and I might say business people often tend to underestimate the number and the intensity of transmission channels. Obviously, between countries and between regions of the world. Obviously, trade matters, but there are also financial linkages, and there are geopolitical linkages that are difficult ones these days. Obviously, the crisis with Russia is going to affect the whole world because it's going to affect the Eurozone, and the Eurozone affects China. China affects the United States. The Middle East problem, right now we have an interesting story with rapidly falling oil, but the markets are less than uncertain whether it's a positive or negative. It's interesting that with the rapid fall in oil prices, which should be a slam dunk positive for the stock market, the market's back today, but you can see it's very over the past 3 or 4 days, it's been very, very jittery. So, I would watch the full complexion of the world outside of the U.S. That's definitely getting better. And I would add in that geopolitical uncertainties are also going to have an impact on the North American economy and will all affect the world that business decision makers confront as they think about their large capital investments for next year.
What do you feel will be the biggest change we will see in the economy moving through 2015?
If you want to find something positive, and I'll say this with a bit of trepidation, it looks like we're going to have less in the way of fiscal dramas coming out of Washington. In the years following the recession, which bottomed in 2009, particularly in 2011, 2012, we had fiscal dramas, fights between the executive and the Congress, government shutdowns, fiscal cliffs. They were a terrible detriment to growth. The states were in bad shape, and they are now getting into much better shape. So I'm saying this with a bit of trepidation and a bit of nervousness, but it does seem to me that one positive change is that the government sector, both in terms of numbers and in terms of its behavior, is looking like it's going to be somewhat less of a negative for economic activity next year and in the years to come. And that's certainly good news.
One last question, Cliff. MAPI publishes regular reports that MTI pushes out to members on a regular basis. Can you touch on a couple of them that members should really be paying attention to?
Well, we do forecasts for all regions of the world. My colleague Ying Chu and I are finishing up our draft of an Asian economic report. Dan Nexroth, our chief economist, is finishing up his U.S. Economic report. I will probably do a webinar on the global economic outlook in the early part of next year, as I do, and probably will write a global economic report. So we cover the world, we cover the regions of the world, but we also do a number of special reports. My colleague Don Norman, who is MAPI's longstanding energy expert, did a project with the Aspen Institute on the impact of lifting the oil export ban. I am following a number of things, but including technology. All of this rapid change in manufacturing itself. We're interested in the economic environment and the forecast. We have to look at how manufacturing itself is changing fairly dramatically. I'm going to continue to follow that. And I put out an article that got a fair bit of attention called The New Factory. So we're looking at the economic environment with all our regional and with our global reports. We're looking at special policy issues as well, as in the oil report on the export ban. And I'm looking at technology and how it's changing manufacturing in very fundamental ways. And we're going to continue to put out writing and do some speaking in those areas.
Cliff, it is always good to hear your insights. We look forward to seeing you in Orlando in April. Thank you for being with us today on MTI TV.
Thank you very much for having me.
Members, you cannot control what is going on in the economy, but you can control how you respond to it. The best steps to ensuring success in any economy is to find your niche, service it with excellence, and dominate your market. You're part of the largest network of heat treaters in the world. Together, the resources of MTI, combined with our members' passion for success, make you not just strong, but MTI strong. I'm Tom Morrison. See you next time on MTI TV.